We are witnessing the birth of the next great Big 12 basketball rivalry.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans, and happy Friday to you. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day and sticking with us through this wacky week. We are going to talk a little bit of Baylor BYU and why that might be the next great basketball rivalry in the best basketball conference in America. Plus, of course, Scott Drew is still going portal shopping, and he may bring back an old friend. And I use the term friend very liberally. And I'll talk a little bit about the apology just to clear some things up and head into the weekend. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Well, it's been a week. Baylor and BYU have been linked for a few years now. Even before BYU got in the conference, we had that great home-and-home series with two terrific football games in 2021 and 2022. And from like right away, from Jump Street there, it was like, man, this just makes a lot of sense to be a rivalry, to be, and I don't mean that as like, oh God, we hate those guys, but more like this just makes a ton of sense. These teams should be playing each other. They have similar missions, albeit with different kind of branches of faith. But these institutions are looking to do the same thing. They have the same kind of struggles in terms of being a faith-based institution when it comes to conference realignment and to building great athletic departments. And they're both universities that are top-notch research schools that are trying to build their way through athletics. And now we've also got some bad blood to mix it up in there, right? There's been plenty of kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Plenty of people going on both sides. I don't know why I'm missing the word, but Jeff Grimes, obviously the old OC at BYU, comes to Baylor. The Barrington brothers, both former BYU players, go to Baylor. And now Gary Bohannon was the backup quarterback at BYU last year after winning a Big 12 championship for Baylor in 2021. And now the big one, right? Rob Wright. Yeah, there you go. Rob Wright, who is going to be the face of Baylor's team next year, is now apparently a BYU Cougar and getting a lot of money to be a BYU Cougar. And that might just stoke the flames of this thing a little bit. It's been a friendly rivalry. I'm sure it'll continue to be that way for the most part. But now there's some attrition here. And do I have some role in that? Whatever role I have, I'll welcome it. This week has certainly kind of fanned the flames of what could be a bubbling rivalry. But the real big part about this is I mentioned the similarities of these schools, but also the games they've played, right? Like BYU was the second game at the Foster Pavilion. That was a back and forth affair. It was a great matchup at the Marriott Center last year. Great matchup at the Marriott Center this past year. A couple of great football games. Another exciting one here in the 2024 season. So like this is a ton of fun. And now you add a little bit of salt to it, right? Like Baylor fans are not happy about this transfer from Rob Wright and whatever deals went on behind the scenes with Rob Wright's dad. And BYU fans are some of them are not happy with Baylor fans right now, as much as you can be for the great, nice people of BYU, right? So there were a lot of Baylor fans in Provo at the football game at 22 and vice versa with the two football games at Baylor. So I think we've got something here. I think we've really got something here. And this is the best basketball conference in America that doesn't have a lot of like signature basketball rivalries. Of course, the one that sticks out is Kansas State. Those two teams are never going to like each other. They will always take jabs, and usually they're both pretty good. Kansas is obviously always good, and Kansas State, for the most part, is pretty good as well. So that's probably the best one. And a lot of the football rivalries don't necessarily carry over with the same kind of, the same kind of passion to it on the basketball court. Like, does anyone remember the Farmageddon games in basketball? or even like back when OU was here, like the Bedlam games in basketball. How about Utah, BYU? You remember those? Arizona State? Not really. Those are for football. Baylor, TCU. Even though they played some big time games the last couple of years, it's not making national news or anything like that. It doesn't exactly lead to sellouts automatically. So we need those kind of great rivalries on the hardwood as well in this conference. That's what's going to bring this conference even more national attention that I don't think it got this year, and it deserved to have. So I think a rivalry like this, like Baylor BYU, with some real nastiness, within the bounds of good taste. It's okay to have nastiness. I think BYU fans would agree with that. It's okay to have nastiness as long as it's within good taste for sports fans. That's what makes sports so great. And the thing with the rivalries in this conference now is they're just they come and go, right? Like Baylor, Kansas was pretty good for a couple of years there because they were the two best teams in the conference. Right now, UH and Tech have a good thing going. They're two really good programs within the state of Texas. There's a lot of Tech fans in Houston. So, that's a good thing right now. Kansas, Iowa State, typically pretty good. But that's not like real fundamental rivalries. You look at some of these other conferences and you feel that, Michigan State, always good theater in college basketball. Obviously Duke and Carolina and ACC, that's the best rivalry probably in all of college sports, so there's signature rivalries in these other conferences. And here's the Big 12, the best one of them all. And you don't really have it. Like Auburn, Alabama, that translates on the basketball court now. Okay. Like that absolutely translates on the basketball court, not just the football field. Big 12 needs that. Maybe this is the gateway. Maybe Rob Wright is the gateway drug for a great rivalry in Big 12 basketball. I don't think it will ever be, nasty to the point of poisoning trees on campuses or anything like that, or branding the other school's mascot. I don't think it's going to come to that. But this could be like a pretty big time matchup every year. And certainly as long as Rob Wright is playing at BYU, it's gonna come with a lot of charged emotions when they come to Baylor, like they will next year. So whatever you feel about the transfer aside, I think we can all agree this has really perked some things up on both sides of the aisle. Both fan bases have been perked up and titillated by this week in the transfer portal and the whole Rob Wright saga. Boy, could this be a good rivalry. Boy, could this be a slimy rivalry, if I might say so myself. I think if you put up, good games in the next 2 years, everything else will follow. Like Baylor needs to have a good team. Right now, BYU's got a better team. But Baylor, if they can put together some good games, you'll have the Rob Wright thing. You'll have the hostile crowds at Foster Pavilion. It's always a hostile environment at the Marriott Center in Provo. Like you just need, Baylor kind of needs to hold up its end and make sure these are two really entertaining games over the next couple of years. Because then you might have something. These schools are always going to be kind of linked. And Baylor was the kind of standard in the Big 12 the last couple of years, last 4 or 5 years in basketball. Now it's Houston. But BYU is kind of coming down the pike there. Sweet 16 this past year and bringing in obviously a great point guard in Rob Wright and the number one recruit in the country. Like they're going to be at the top of this conference. They're going to be right up there. So if Baylor can turn this thing around, hold up their end of the bargain, we could have a really great rivalry here. So that's my take at the end of the week. After all of this stuff, the thing that's going to make me smile is the fact that this is going to be a fun rivalry going forward. And I don't know if it's going to have pure, unadulterated hate the way some of these other ones do, but there is going to be some ill feelings there. Let's just say that. And I know from the Baylor fan standpoint, it's already begun. So can't wait. Can't wait for that one Can't wait for the schedule to come out and just circle that one on the calendar. Because, guys, this week, we might look back on it in a few years and say that was the beginning of a great Big 12 basketball rivalry. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. Let me know if this is going to be one of the best rivalries in the Big 12. I sure hope so. But the show rolls on. We got to talk about Baylor making that team better and adding some guys to it. Could they be having an old TCU Horned Frog coming onto the roster next year? Let's talk about it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, a word from today's sponsor, and that is TurboTax, which I didn't have the read up right away. So now it's just loading, and now I'm going to bring it up. This is a message from TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Well, now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who could do your taxes as soon as today, which you'll need. You've only got 4 days. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, all so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com, just like I did. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Baylor still window shopping here in the transfer portal. It's felt like crickets. It's been a couple days here. They got Obi Agbim. They got Michael Rattay. They got J.J. White. We heard from Jackson Posey yesterday. There's good things to be taken from all of those. There's some downsides to be taken from all of those, right? All of them only have 1 year of eligibility left. Like, that's not exactly the place you want to be at. You want some guys who are going to be here for a couple of years. And the more rumors we hear around people that Baylor have reached out to, the more it's evident that might just not be possible at the volume in which we want it to be. Because they're all seniors. All these guys they're contacting are seniors, guys with 1 year of eligibility left. And the most recent one, as of Thursday, is a really interesting name that has been contacted by Baylor already and has been in the portal for a couple of days. Remember Eddie Lampkin? I do. I certainly do. TCU for a couple of years was kind of a problem at TCU in a couple of different ways, but on the court, like a problem. Like that dude was good. Goes to Colorado, then goes to Syracuse for a year each. Now he's in the portal again. He's looking for team number 4 in year number 5, if I'm not mistaken. And he has heard from some of the big programs in the country. Arkansas, John Calipari, Auburn, number 1 seed, A&M plays basketball. They've also heard from Indiana, Oklahoma State within the conference here, and Baylor. Baylor is one of those. I'm intrigued by this. I'm really intrigued by this because I always thought Eddie Lampkin was, he's just a fascinating player, right? He's got an odd body build. He's not exactly rocking a 6-pack out there, but he always produced. And he was a problem for Baylor when he was at TCU. And I really thought they had kind of foundational pieces. Jamie Dixon did when he was in Fort Worth. Eddie Lampkin, I mean, obviously Jamie Dixon's still there. But Mike Miles and Eddie Lampkin, I'm like, you've got kind of a foundation here to not be a Final Four team or anything, but to challenge schools like Baylor or Texas Tech or Iowa State in this Big 12 conference. And it didn't pan out. It was a weird exit. He obviously had plenty to say, plenty of accusations about Jamie Dixon, accusations of racism against Jamie Dixon on his way out the door. Very weird exit from TCU. And there seems to be kind of smoke wherever he goes. But in terms of a player, he can still do it. Baylor needs bigs. The guy's 6'11" and will eat you alive. I mean that figuratively, of course, but literally almost 60% from the floor, 11.5 points and almost 10 rebounds a game. So averaging a double-double in the ACC, and obviously a Texas native as well. He's from Katy. So maybe a move closer to home to end his college career. He he's not exactly Norchad Omier. I think that's pretty evident, but he can give you a lot of the same things. He couldn't give you couldn't lean on him the way that you needed to lean on Norchad Omier this past year. Like that couldn't happen. But now you can get a guy who is kind of a walking double-double, just the way that Norchad Omier was. It's going to be, a 13 and 10 double-double. It's not going to be a 20 and 16 double-double the way Norchad Omier was given you, but he improves every year. I talked about how effective I thought he was at TCU. He didn't average more than 7 points a game at TCU, and he's gone over double figures in his last 2 seasons, one at Colorado and one at Syracuse. That would be a really interesting pickup for Baylor, kind of an old friend / old foe to come and finish his career with the Bears. Again, a guy who's had some negative attention around him. Maybe, he cleared things up at Syracuse because there wasn't really anything coming out from Western New York this year about him. So maybe this is a more mature kid who is ready for one last bite at the apple back in Big 12 basketball. I think it would be a weird fit, especially for the fans. But production-wise, the guy still produces. 6'11", 265 pounds. 265 pounds. That's a big man. That is a big man, Eddie Lampkin Jr. Can't imagine what Eddie Lampkin Sr. is like. But Eddie Lampkin Jr. is a problem, man. He is a double-double right now. The other guy that I want to bring up before kind of getting out of the segment, Terrence Arsenault for Houston is in the portal. It's a kid who was a 4-star recruit a few years ago, a real big get for Kelvin Sampson at UH because this year is really the first year that they're getting like 5-star guys. So that 4-star was a huge pickup, but does not start. He's a bench player. He only averaged like 6.5 points a game this year. But I think anyone who watched Houston with any kind of regularity, you're like, this kid should be more. And whether that's the logjam at the position or the kid's just not doing what he's supposed to be doing, like you feel like there is more for this kid. He has played 3 seasons, but is only listed as a sophomore. So he's got a couple of years of eligibility. He's not coming in with just one, like Eddie Lampkin Jr. would be. 6'6", kind of a swing guard. He's not going to play forward, but can be like a Langston Love, VJ Edgecombe kind of guard with the way he would defend. I know a lot of Baylor fans don't like UH, but I love the kind of defensive intensity they play with, and I think Baylor could use some of that. So if Terrence Arsenault can bring some of that here, then let's do it. He did get Baylor interest out of high school. In fact, Baylor offered him about a week and a half after they won the national championship, which for Houston fans tuning in, the national championship was when you win it. You actually win that last game. You get a banner that says national champions. Baylor did that, and a couple days later, they offered Terrence Arsenault. He said, I'd rather go to the Final Four and lose. So he went to Houston. But that's a guy you could add to the roster here. There's no contact yet or anything like that. But the last kind of name that we heard for guys they were interested in was Dan Skillings Jr. from Cincinnati. And I know Arsenault doesn't start, but if you're giving me those 2 options, I'm taking Arsenault 7 days a week. He's a guy who's gotten better. Again, not a starter, but his minutes go up, his efficiency goes up, his points go up. It's not the same for Dan Skillings at Cincinnati. He tested the NBA draft waters. It apparently didn't go well. He stayed at Cincinnati for a team that looked pretty good at the beginning of this last season, really fizzled out. They didn't make the tournament, and his role got smaller and his numbers went down. I like the upside of Arsenault that he could provide for Baylor. He's a much improved shooter this year. Still not great, 34%, but jumped that up about 6% from the year before. So the kid keeps improving. And anytime you're earning more minutes at Houston means you are putting in maximum effort when you look at that program, right? And the way that Kelvin Sampson runs that thing. So Arsenault, I don't know if that's a real possibility, but he's a Texas kid. had interest in Baylor before, did a visit to Baylor and everything. And if you're giving me the option between him and Dan Skillings, 10 times out of 10, I'm picking Terrence Arceneaux. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if Terrence Arceneaux is the kind of guy that you would go for. How about Eddie Lampkin? Would you go for him? Let me know in the comment section below. If you're on YouTube here, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. About half of you watching are not subscribed to the channel. We're on the march towards 4,000 followers, and we're getting closer every day because of this great fan base that we have. So do that. Ring the notification bell to get notified every time we're going live or dropping videos. And just remember that it's your first place to listen, your first listen. There we go. Today and every day. We're going to roll on Locked On Baylor. We've got one more segment to get you into the weekend. I got to address the apology. I got to address it. There's some other things I need to clear up. Nothing bad, but we just got to clear it up. Welcome back, Locked On Baylor. I'm gonna take the mic out of the handle here. I'm gonna be real informal with you guys. You might have saw I did an apology to BYU and their fans. That was yesterday morning. Now I went on with Locked On Big 12 with Drake. He suggested I do an apology. Some other people at Locked On suggested I do an apology, but it was sincere. Like, I did not. Here's where I'm kind of an a-hole. I definitely saw it as like a clearly sarcastic joke, like throwaway line, and a lot of BYU fans did not. And the one thing I don't want to be, like, I'll be an a-hole, I'll be a jerk, I'll be ever passionate about Baylor and almost no other college team. But I don't want to be that guy who attacks a religion. I don't think I did, but I also don't want it to come off that way. And I actually feel real sympathy for a lot of BYU fans. It has not been an easy transition to the Big 12 in terms of, it's just a new world, right? And a lot of Big 12 fan bases weren't ready for all that comes with BYU, and it being the Mormon school. We heard it from, was it Arizona, right? Not Arizona State this past year that was chanting F the Mormons. So, I have some sympathy. Like, that's, if they did that same thing to the Baptists, we would be up in arms. We'd be pissed. And I obviously did not mean for it to come off that way, but a lot of BYU fans did take it that way. So I was like, all right, we need to address this. It's no big deal. The thing that I also wanted to clear up was I had a lot of people reach out to me both before and after the apology. I think real caring people that were like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry this has happened to you. And I'm like, it really isn't like that. Okay. Like, doing that kind of public apology, like, this was not like, your Netflix documentary where someone knows they're getting canceled and their life's crumbling around them. That's what I wanted to clear up. It wasn't that. If it were another fan base that wasn't BYU, it might have been. It might have been more nasty than it was, but it was just a lot of fans that weren't happy to hear that and pointed out that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does not fund BYU athletics. And they felt that as a personal attack on their religion, which it did not mean to be. There are still some BYU fans who think I'm being disingenuous and that you can't blame it on a joke. But if it were not a joke, I would have said something else, in terms of my apology. But it was a joke, and apparently it just didn't go over that way. So I didn't want it to seem like I wasn't getting death threats or anything like that. There were some people that were chirping me for being 27 and not married yet. That person was 16 years old, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised by the response on Twitter when Drake put that out, that I was going to apologize, because Twitter is not usually like the barometer of people in general, right? Most people in the world are not on Twitter, and usually you get keyboard warriors on there that are not representing, the full fan base or a full, faction of people or anything. You're usually getting non-measured responses on Twitter. But what I was surprised to see is the overwhelming majority of those Twitter responses were, why is he apologizing? No, that was a joke. Like, what are we talking about here? People are so sensitive these days. And so I was surprised to see that. And a lot of it was from BYU fans. So it obviously, hundreds and hundreds of comments on the YouTube videos about that allegation that the LDS church was building temples to get more BYU basketball players, which is what I said. Again, I clearly thought that was not to be taken seriously. But again, I sympathize with those who are, sensitive to what people are saying about the religion. Because again, this is happening. They're saying tough stuff at other schools in this conference. And if it were the Baptists that they were talking about, maybe I would have thought about it a little bit differently. So that's all. I just wanted to let you guys know I was not in fear of losing my job or that I wouldn't have an audience anymore, or that this was just going to be a bad deal for me. But I do sympathize with the fans who took that seriously. And maybe I'm playing a double standard, because if it was another fan base that isn't usually so nice to us and has been honestly really good to this channel, then maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe I wouldn't have if it were Colorado fans or TCU fans or Iowa State fans. But the BYU fans have been very supportive of this channel. Actually, there are some who listen all the time, not just when we're talking about BYU. And so I kind of felt for them if they thought that was an attack on the religion. So obviously the other stuff, the reporting, that's my reporting. I'm not backing off that, whether it be the number or the thoughts of tampering. All I said was there's some smoke in the tampering. And Rob Wright, signs a contract with Baylor, and within a day and a half of him entering the portal, he's got 2 big-time offers from 2 major basketball operations now with Villanova and BYU. So, to me, where there's smoke, there's fire. I also said on Locked On Big 12 yesterday that there's not that much you can do. It's not like a legally binding employee contract. It's an NIL contract, and players can get out of it. So I'm not saying you need to throw the kid in jail. I'm just saying it's shady. I used the word slimy, which was clearly about the deal and not the Mormon faith. So there were a few fans who took it that way. That is not what I was saying either. So that's what I wanted to do. I know it's kind of a somber note to end the week, and we don't really need to talk about this anymore. I'm not taking down the video. I am one who believes that, if it's a mistake, you leave it up there. I'll probably say something moderately stupid again. I usually do every day. So that's all. But this was more to clear up for the people reaching out, because I didn't get to all the, social media DMs, and the people reaching out through text and everything. I am fine. I'm fine. It sounds like the BYU people are fine too. And next week, no one will remember this. So anyway, thanks you guys for tuning in every day, making it your first listen today and every day. You have made this the number one spot for Baylor sports news and the podcast form, both on YouTube and on audio, wherever you get your podcast. So I appreciate the heck out of you guys to show the support. Please, if you thought my apology was stupid, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you thought it was genuine and you forgive me, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments below. And have a good weekend. Do me a favor and just have a good damn weekend. And we will see you on Monday on your favorite show, which is, of course, I think I'm going to just do this with the mic more often if it doesn't sound that bad. It's very informal. I like that. Your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.